Hey, Pete here for Studio Live today, and in this, the fourth episode of my deconstruction of the EP Recoil, which I recorded 100% right here in GarageBand, I'm going to be going through the third track on the EP, and this is a track called Turn Back. And right up front, I wanted to say this is something that may make some of you turn off, but for the more sadistic of you, you might want to stick around. This is one of the tracks, well, the track that I'm probably the least happy with of the four. Doesn't mean that I don't like it and I'm not proud of it, but it didn't come out exactly the way I wanted to. But when you're recording an EP in 1 month, there's some things that you can't get exactly right. So let's jump in and go through how it was recorded and some of the details. So the first thing that you'll notice here is that we've got a lot of string tracks here. So we've got 5 in total. I'll just zoom out a little bit there. So we've got 5 string tracks. In total, there's really only 3 string parts, but they're separated out across 5 tracks, and I'll show you why that is in a moment. We've then got a piano that's prominent throughout most of the song. And we have our vocals. So we've got a lead vocal there. We've got a vocal lead whoa. So I've got a sort of a separate part that you'll hear in a moment. And then we've got the background vocals as well. And we've got 2 acoustic guitars on the left and the right to finish off the song. No drums on this song. So if you've watched the other 2 videos, track 1 had drummer used for its drums. Track 2, I actually programmed the drums in manually using the drums instrument. For this one, because it's a bit more of a ballad, I left the drums out entirely, and just felt that just with the strings, piano, guitar, that was all that we actually needed here. So what I'll do is we'll jump in now and let's start with the strings. So the song itself starts, well, let's just start the song. So you can hear that the song starts with the strings and the acoustic guitar. So the string track here is just a very simple part. If we play that. So that's that's sort of the crux of the song and the riff that sort of runs through across all of the different string parts. So that part runs through for all of the first verse, basically repeating that part. And then when we get to the end of the verse and to the chorus, we add the second string part here. So just in this last phrase here, we add in that low string double bass sound to go along with our what is cello or viola, I guess, the mid-range there, and how that sounds in the mix. Say that you do it anyway, I will try my best to... And then as we approach the chorus, that cuts out, and the reason there's no sound is it's up here. I've got a new track here, which is our this is our pizzicato string. So pizzicato just means plucking the strings. So if I play just the last little bit here, it'll go into this section and you'll hear what I mean. So for that part, I could have actually left it on these tracks, but I like to sort of keep it separate there, because what I wanted to actually do was separate this out. If we go into the mixer here, you can see that this top track is panned sort of mid-right, and this one's panned mid-left. So because all of the other instruments actually drop out at that point, and if we take off the strings, you'll hear that it is those strings and the vocals through that section. It's a waste of your time. And the guitar there as well. Don't turn back. It's already happened anyway. So that's through the chorus, and then as we build into the second verse, you can see that we keep this string here and we add back in these 2. So this one, as we said before, is over here on the right. This one sits in the center, and this one is also in the center, and this one's over here on the left. So if we come back to here, for these three, we have that one left, center, right. So that's how we get the balance of those instruments through this part, and it sounds like this. So we've now got the 3 string parts, and those go throughout the rest of the song. The only other variation that we have here is in the second chorus, we have a harmonised bit for the pizzicato. So that sounds like this. And I think I mentioned in the last video, if you've watched that one, that the reason that you want to vary the song and sort of build it throughout is to get that variation so that your first and second chorus don't sound the same. If you basically just sort of cut and paste and put the same sort of part all the way through in the sort of first chorus, second chorus, first verse, second verse, the song's going to lack some dynamics and not be as interesting to the listener. So that's what I've tried to do here, is to make the song sort of build and build as we get towards the end. And if you listen to it on the EP, hopefully you'll hear that coming through. Okay, so that's our strings. We'll jump down to the piano now. So the piano here doesn't start at the very start, but kicks in just sort of here halfway through the intro. We'll play that. So just a sort of matching chord bed for those strings to sit on, and how it sounds in the mix.
Sometimes I have tried to forget what I have done, and it always seems to be a little hard.
So again, just quite subtle, just the chords following along with the strings and the guitar, just to give it sort of a nice mid-range instrument in there. So that goes throughout. You'll notice there that through the chorus, the piano cuts out. So when we play that...
It's a waste of your time, don't turn back.
So I really wanted a bit of a minimalistic chorus, so that's where it's just got those pizzicato strings, it's got the guitar and the vocals through the chorus. As we come back into this sort of second verse where the strings start to build, the piano starts to build as well. So we'll play that. So it's still quite simple there. And then as we come towards the very last chorus here, you'll notice that the piano really starts to kick in. So this is for the final chorus part in the mix, sounds like this.
Don't turn back now.
So that's as we're heading towards the crescendo of the song. As we head into that last chorus, the piano is going to really kick in. And again, that's just around trying to create some interest. So you've got the very basic chords to start. You've got the chords with a little bit of flourish in the middle there. And then at the end, that's where the chords really, the piano part really starts to change. And that sort of is designed to enhance the mix there. Okay, let's hit vocals. So if you've been watching along, you've probably noticed that this fader here on the lead vocal is jumping up and down. And that's sort of an interesting technique that I've used in this. And it's automating the vocals to remove the breaths. And if you've watched the video I did on the 10 tips for recording an EP or recording in GarageBand, that's one of the tips that I gave. So we'll jump in and look at that right now. This is the lead vocal track, so you've heard that throughout. We'll just solo that for a moment.
To forget what I have done, and it always seems to be a little hard to reflect.
So you can hear exactly what's happening there with that automation is between phrases when I'm breathing in this song, you can sort of hear you can see the volume and hear that you're not hearing that breath as much. And the way that we've done that is using automation, which I really like the automation. It's been in GarageBand for a bit over a year now, and it's a really, really handy feature because you can do things like this. So if we tap on the vocal, go to our automation, that'll open up, and you'll see here all of these little changes. So yes, this was done manually, so I've had to add in all of these automation points. And if you're new to automation, you haven't used this before, you can check out my video on how to do automation. But basically, all we need to do is add in 3 automation points there, drop the middle one, and that creates that V shape there. And that means that if I play, let's play this one, it's a nice pronounced one, you'll hear and see that the vocal line plays, the audio drops away, and it comes back in time for the next line.
Anyway, so many sleepless nights.
And if we just want to compare that to what that would be like without the automation on, so let's turn the automation off and let's hear that same passage.
Anyway, so many.
So you can hear there that you can hear the breath, and it's not too bad. Like, what I don't like is completely removing the breath. So you'll notice that it just goes down and then comes back up. So you can still hear a bit of it, but yeah, if you remove the breath entirely, and I listen to a song without any breathing, it kind of, by the end of it, you're feeling like you need to take a breath for the singer, because it sounds quite unnatural. But just removing it that way, I think, sounds quite natural. In terms of the processing on the vocal, and I didn't go through processing on the piano and strings because, quite honestly, there wasn't very much on there. I kind of used most of the defaults that are in GarageBand. For the vocals here, if we come down to the plugins and EQ, we've got a compressor on here, so just compressing the vocal slightly. Got some track reverb, just 22% wet there, so just a little bit of a tweak there. And then the visual EQ just rolled off the bottom end, and a slight boost at the top end there. The other vocal tracks that we have here, so we've got the whoa and the background. So that's just to separate out these sections before the chorus. So if we enable those two, before the verse, and play.
Whoa, whoa.
And in the mix.
Many times I have.
And again, the reason that's on a separate track is that there's a tiny little bit of crossover there in just as you tail out of the woes and go into the first verse. So clearly they were sung separately. And that was one thing I did do with this song, is I did have to sing it in parts, as you can see there, somewhat due to the performance issues, but also because there's a lot of longer notes in the song. So I was finding that I was kind of running out of breath as I was singing and recording. So that's I guess a way some people might say that's cheating, but it's done like comping vocals together or doing multiple takes or multiple parts of a vocal. Is something that's very, very common. And it works a lot better if you can do that, especially for these sort of things where you can sort of mix and match. In terms of the processing on these, so the woes, and I'll go to the background vocals here. We've got fairly similar sort of processing. If we jump in there, the only difference here is we've got compressor, effect EQ, got the track reverb on there, which almost exactly the same, 21% on that one. And the EQ just has the treble boosted a little bit more on these background vocals. So because there's sort of a lighter and a thinner sound that I was looking for, it's a higher register. I just wanted to really boost and bring out the top end in that part of the vocal. All right. Last but not least is our guitars. So along with the strings, the guitars really do provide, because they're in the track all the way through, they provide the bed of the song here. So let's take a listen to both of those from the start. Okay, now the first thing you've probably noticed here is, what have we done here? You've said you don't like to copy and paste, and yet you've clearly copied and pasted the first 3 sections of this song. Well, yes, I did, and there was a reason for that. In my top 10 tips for recording in GarageBand, I mentioned this one, and this is the track where I made a mistake right from the start. What you will notice here is that there is no lead in time at all. So this track starts from the very start of track 1. So when I hit play, it's already away. And when I first recorded this, the first strum of this original sample was just before it recorded. So it sounded very cut off, and I haven't kept it because I was quite ashamed of it, so I can't actually even show you what it sounded like. I could probably, if I played around with this, the audio is probably sitting under there somewhere. But it really didn't sound good. But what I did find is that the second time I played it, I came in right on time. So instead of coming in just before and it sounding cut off, it was right on time. So it was just a simple matter of coming in here, cutting that first piece of audio, so splitting it again, and then creating these sections. So what we've got here is that, yes, unfortunately the guitar in the end is the same for those three phrases, but it's a very basic part and it doesn't really take away because you've got the other instruments in there. It doesn't take away from the song, but it sounds an awful lot better than having that cut off. You can then see that for the rest of the track, for the most part, apart from an edit there on that one, where I've obviously made a mistake and had to come back, it was perfectly fine. So that's again a little trick. I don't yet like to use a lot of editing in GarageBand to get the sound I want, but in a case like that, it was required to make it sound better than it was originally. So that's it. Actually, let's just jump in. We'll look at the processing on these guitars. That was the one last thing I wanted to show. Fairly similar again. Compressor, track reverb, visual EQ. Once again, I've just used the recorder, and obviously because they're an acoustic guitar, I haven't used the amp simulator or anything like that. So these ones are EQ'd. This one's just got a little bit of a boost, just past 1K, but pretty flat other than that. I'll press the actual done button. And then on this guitar, if I was smart, so I've just done a bit of complementary EQ, so I've just carved out a little bit around that same frequency. And those are pushed to the left and the right. So if we come out of the plugins, you can see this one's pushed quite hard to the right, and this one's quite hard to the left. So you get that separation and that nice width that you get in the track. So that is the song Falling. Not as bad as I first thought, so sorry if you were hoping for a train wreck. The bits that I really wasn't, I guess, as comfortable with was the vocals in this one, because there was a few pitchy notes in there and a few things that weren't sung exactly the way that I wanted to. But all in all, it's ended up okay. So I hope you enjoyed watching this. Stay tuned for track 4 coming soon, which is my song called Home, the one that has a ukulele in it, which is very outside of my comfort zone. So I'll talk to you about that shortly once we release that video. Thanks again.